Hello everybody and welcome to Mr. Saucedo's YouTube videos. Today we're going to be going over the 6th lesson. We're almost done. In Unit 10, which is all about ecosystem interactions and population dynamics. So we're going to be talking about symbiosis. So before we get started with that, let's actually look over the large essential question that we're kind of focusing on here, right? So we want to know what kind of relationships organisms have with each other. And specifically, symbiosis is a very close ecological relationship. And they have to be two organisms that are different species. So the first kind is a mutual benefit. It's called mutualism. And it's where both of the species are going to get something out of their relationship. So here we have a nice little picture of an eel and a shrimp. They have this mutualistic relationship. Do you think you know, like, kind of what their relationship is, like what they get out of this ecological relationship? So the shrimp will kind of get free food by picking the stuff that is in between the eel's teeth for it. And the eel gets essentially free dental care because without that, those little particles might cause some sort of infection. They could go rotten, things like that. So they both kind of get this benefit from one another. And this little eel is going to allow the shrimp to do this. It's not going to just eat the shrimp. So, first real example, what do you think this is kind of representative of? Do you think you know what this relationship is? So first things first, right? We have our sea anemones. That would be these little guys here that are all covered with tentacles. And then clownfish. So what do these two get out of their relationship? So the anemones are going to act as protected homes for the clownfish. So essentially the clownfish gets a free home. What does the anemone get out of this? Well, clownfish are very territorial. So that's also not really on here, but they are. They're kind of mean, so they scare away things. But they also clean the sea anemone from parasites that could cause all sorts of issues for it. And also they eat these dead tentacles that could cause, again, also some medical issues for the sea anemone. So if one of these tentacles dies, they kind of chew on it, gnaw on it, and eat it. Again, mutualistic relationship, right? Clownfish gets something, sea anemone gets something. What about this relationship here? Okay, if you think you know, we've got ourselves acacia thorns and acacia ants. So the thorns, again, are acting as like a home. So that little hole that you see right here is not created by the ants. It's just a part of the acacia thorn's anatomy. And so what you end up with is ants that are able to kind of live inside of this plant. In addition to that, to lure the ants, they supply it with nectar. So there's nectar in here that's going to allow them to, again, kind of stay in the plant itself. And you might think to yourself, okay, that's pretty good. A pretty good adaptation here, right? To attract ants. Why would you want these ants? These ants are very aggressive. And so they will essentially attack any potential predator that comes near it because it's their home. So in other words, they get like a free kind of police service almost out of this. They kind of get their own little mini army. Next up, any idea what these two are called? We've got ourselves an impala and we've got ourselves an oxpecker. So oxpeckers eat parasites. So they hang out on the back, or sometimes the horns. They'll hang out on the impala. And inevitably what will happen is they'll get ticks or something, right? They'll get something that you really don't want to get infected by. And so oxpeckers will just eat them. And it kind of prevents disease from spreading in the oxpecker. In addition to that, right, the oxpeckers are getting a free food source. So they're getting free food, and again, they're getting some sort of medical-based care. All right, the next one. So after mutualism, the next one we have is commensalism. So commensalism is a form of symbiosis where one organism gets a benefit and the other one doesn't, but it doesn't harm it. So a good example of that are these cute little guys. These are eyelash mites. They live in your eyelashes, specifically in the follicles of your eyelashes. So this is a follicle. These are these little eyelash mites. Um, and they're not really causing us any issue. But what they do is they get a free source of food, which is like dead skin and oil. So that's an example of a commensalistic relationship. You didn't even probably know you had them, but they're there. Okay, other commensalistic relationships. Any idea what we're showing here? So we've got ourselves whales and barnacles. So barnacles are stationary. They are not able to move, and so they really can't hunt for food on their own. So they hitch a ride on whales and filter feed from the water as the whale swims. So they get more food this way. And the whale is not really helped or harmed by these barnacles. They really just don't look pretty, but they don't really hurt the whale at all. Here's a little guy. It's called the cattle egret. So cattle egret and cattle, so there's no cow in this picture because they really don't hang out on cows or anything. What they do is they wait for cows to move, and they essentially swoop down and eat any of the bugs that they displace as they go through the grass. So in other words, the cows are trotting through a field, grasshoppers and other bugs are going to jump out of the way. So the cattle egret just kind of hang out and then swoop in and eat the grasshoppers and stuff as they move. The cattle don't even really know that the cattle egret are around, right? So there's no help, there's no harm. They're just there. Now, parasitism is the one that everybody's kind of aware of, right? So parasites are going to harm something. So a parasitism relationship is one where an organism benefits, but the other one is harmed. There are a ton of them. You've got a caterpillar and the braconid wasp. They essentially lay their eggs inside of the caterpillar. And when they do that, their little babies hatch out and they eat the caterpillar from the inside out. Like that's definitely a parasite, right? So a good example of that would be these guys, looking horrifying. Tapeworms. So tapeworms enter our digestive system and they start to absorb nutrients from the food we eat. So most of the time people aren't aware of the fact they have a tapeworm until it gets so long that it starts to cause a lot of issues, or you have a lot of nutritional deficiencies that are unexplained. And then it's like, okay, well, there's something essentially sapping the nutrients from your digestive system. And we can become very sick from this parasite. So we are harmed by it. The tapeworm gets essentially a free meal for a very, very, very long time. Also, eventually, when they need to reproduce, they will lay some eggs, and that will just kind of go into our poop. And they'll hopefully find another host for their babies. So this little guy, bringing back Pokemon from our evolution unit here, is named Paris, named after parasites, and it is a specific type of parasite. So this is supposed to, I know it doesn't look like an ant, but again, it's a Pokemon, right? It's just a representation. So pretend this is an ant with mushrooms growing out of its back. This is what it actually would look like. If you've ever seen The Last of Us, this is the type of parasite that infects people. Cordyceps does not infect people, though. But what this basically is a infected ant that has these mushrooms growing out of its back. So mushroom spores infect ants, and they slowly will eat away at their brain and cause them to do things that they normally wouldn't do. And when that ant dies, the mushrooms kind of break out of its back and then release spores that infect the entire colony. Again, a very bad relationship there. Again, for copyright issues, I can't show the clip, but it is kind of gross. And there are cordyceps that infect many different types of insects. There's a type of cordyceps for almost there's a type of cordyceps mushroom for almost every type of bug that you get in a rainforest. What about this one? So mosquitoes get a bad rap. This parasite though, is actually something that lives inside of mosquitoes. It's called Plasmodium. So I'm putting mosquitoes anyway, but the actual parasite is the Plasmodium, and it causes malaria. So mosquitoes that are infected with this Plasmodium, and the Plasmodium just lives in its gut. It doesn't infect the mosquito. It just kind of lives there. It infects humans with a deadly disease that is called malaria. And so if untreated, humans die from the disease. Again, the mosquito doesn't really get anything out of this relationship here. So it's kind of a commensalistic relationship between the mosquito and the Plasmodium. But the Plasmodium is a parasite for humans. So Plasmodium will infect humans, cause disease and death, but the Plasmodium itself is the only thing getting the benefit. Humans are harmed by it. All right, so that is our last parasite. If you have any questions, please let me know. Make sure you're filling in your notes as you go.